Endurance is not a common quality. A lot of folk lack the long-term commitment, caring, and willingness that are vital to sticking with a task against all odds. But Jeremiah was a prophet who endured. What does commitment mean? It is a pledge to do something. It can also mean to bind oneself or obligate yourself to something or issue. Your word or your bond, honor, and dedication are essential to any commitment. A true commitment means that you will keep it 100 until your obligation is complete. Jeremiah's call by God teaches how intimately God knows us. When we become Christians, we commit our hearts and our very lives to God through faith in Jesus Christ, knowing that in doing this, we will receive the greater good. And oh yeah, by the way, homie, we have to remember the enemy will always try to bring some difficulties and persecution into our lives to try to shake us from keeping our commitment to God. Our commitment to God must supersede everything else in our lives. Jeremiah had to depend totally on God's love as he developed endurance. The people he preached to were usually antagonistic or apathetic to his message. He was ignored. His life was sometimes threatened, but he stayed committed to the message given to him by God. He saw both the excitement of a spiritual awakening and the sorrow of a national return of idolatry. Jeremiah responded to all this with God's message and human tears. He felt firsthand God's love for his people and the people's rejection of that love. But even when he was angry with God and tempted to give up, Jeremiah knew he had to keep going. God called him to endure. It may be easy for us to identify with Jeremiah's frustration and discouragement, but we need to realize that this prophet's life is also encouragement to faithfulness. You know, me and my older brother Freddie, we used to have this discussion about this book, and he'd always tell me, you better do what God called you to do. It ain't gonna be easy, people ain't gonna like it, but it's the truth. And what God has placed in you, you gotta speak it. What I'm saying is this. I was given this message about 11 years ago. My older brother Freddie and my older sister Denise were the only two that really knew and understood what was happening with me, how God was dealing with me. And there are a lot of people who say they are Christians. And we can be fooled by their outward commitment to God. But God sees what they have not truly committed was their heart. Some people are committed up until they find something they don't understand or agree with. That was me once upon a time. Jeremiah was known as the weeping prophet. His Old Testament book is one of my favorite books because I can relate to Jeremiah. I understand the struggles he went to. And the Lord told him to warn the people of the coming of his judgment because they were rebellious, disobedient, and in spiritual adultery. He also told him that they won't listen. They'll continue to worship false gods, including Baal, and even burn down their own children alive to offer to Moloch. The religious leaders would continue to preach falsely, and they would persecute Jeremiah intensely. Even though people knew they had strayed from God, they could care less. They were comfortable and happy in their hedonism. There was no fear of the Lord among them. Still, Jeremiah continued to warn of what was to come when God's patience ran out on us. But they continued to mock Jeremiah, and they mocked God too. In Jeremiah 5:21 we read, "Hear now this, O foolish people, and without understanding, which have eyes and see not, which have ears and hear not." Sort of like the old saying we all know so well, "There are none so blind as those who will not see." Isn't this exactly what's going on in our world today? So many people blind and completely oblivious to obvious deception, unable to discern between the true and the false. They could care less. Even though many watchmen on the walls continue sounding the warnings, the alarms, they have no interest in the truth and no time for God. A lot of folk are blind that they refuse to even look when you place clear facts, figures, and evidence right in front of their noses. It's frustrating to me because it seems that so many people now choose to believe lies. As a result, chaos and habit, fear and submission, blind compliance and obedience to things that are more and more wicked, evil every day. The fact is, some things are spiritually discerned, and the carnal man, the material man, cannot comprehend the truth. It's not that they don't want to, they can't. Still, I have to wonder, in complete amazement, how so many people look around at all that's happening in our world today and believe such obvious lies and just blindly go along with it. It seems like most people will fall for any lie the devil toss out there, no matter how ridiculous they are. obey, never questioning, never thinking critically, never thinking at all, really, just doing as their TV or their smartphone screens command them to do. In 2 Thessalonians 2, we read about the great falling away from the faith that will occur before the Lord's return. A lot of folk today have fallen away from the truth. The majority of pastors flat out refuse to preach the whole counsel of God for fear of offending somebody. They absolutely refuse to step out and speak the word of truth beyond the four walls of their buildings, their safe spaces. In fact, in order to keep people pacified, almost refuse to speak the word of truth inside their safe spaces. Mercy. The sheep are led to the slaughter without protection and guidance of a faithful shepherd. The people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. But it's not all the pastor's fault, you see. The time has long since come when people will no longer endure sound doctrine. Instead, to soothe their itching ears, they've heaped up for themselves false teachers who will tell them what they want to hear, winking at sin, just a little adjusting of the scripture here, to stay current with the modern times, and of course, to satisfy their material lusts. It's long been said that if God doesn't send fire and brimstone raining down on America, then he owes a huge apology to Sodom and Gomorrah. And I think we all can agree that God, our Father, has been more patient and long-suffering with us stiff-necked, hard-hearted, self-centered, adulterous people. Now, today, we're seeing Bible prophecy playing out right before our eyes, and still most of us refuse to see. We are right now, and perhaps the most pivotal time in all of history. I believe we are very near that great and final last day when Christ will return, giving righteous judgment and setting things right again. But I also believe that those of us who name the name of Christ are going to have to endure some time of testing, the likes of which we can't possibly comprehend right now. I believe we will have to endure some great hardship and some persecution sooner than we realize. And not all will survive the test. A lot of people will fail. A lot of people will betray God when it comes down to choice between life and death. For that matter, between inconvenience and comfort. Sadly, so many don't even question anything anymore because of strong delusions sent upon them, because they chose to believe lies. Open your eyes, my friend, and work to open the eyes of other people, because the truth is out there for those with eyes to see. And I'll leave you with this. Ezekiel 33, 1 through 6. Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of thy people, and say unto them, when I bring the sword upon the land, if the people of the land take a man of their coast, and set him for their watchman, if when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet, and warn the people, then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet, and taketh not warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. And he heard the sound of the trumpet, and took not warning, his blood shall be upon him. But he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul. But if the watchman see the sword come, and blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, if the sword come, and take any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at the watchman's head.